Welcome to America's Auto Enthusiast Program. This is Auto World. And now, here's your host, Bob Long.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I sound a little bit different. I'm on a different piece of equipment this week, and I'm getting a tune-up in my home studio, and we'll get these technical problems taken care of as soon as possible. We have got a great hour straight ahead. I've been talking about it, and anytime we get the opportunity to sit down and talk and enjoy a conversation with Dan Watson, it's always a pleasure. Dan is a former nuclear propulsion expert with lots of experience and over 25 years worth of experience as a lubrication expert, and over the last several weeks he's been on the program and explaining lots of interesting things. The automotive world changes so quickly, and with engines changing so much, you really need to make sure that you're putting the proper oil in a vehicle that's being serviced. But let's welcome Dan Watson from the Lube page. Dan, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good tonight, Bob. It's been a beautiful day, and it's a nice evening. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time here as usual. And, you know, I am so used to, maybe it's just because I haven't hung around that many service facilities, but I'm so used to seeing if somebody's getting an oil change, the mechanic, the technician using quarts of oil. But over this weekend I had the opportunity to visit a shop in which the oils were coming from one of these gigantic barrels, and all I could think about was your words of wisdom from last week that, you know, personally I'd rather see it coming out of the bottle one quart at a time, because in today's world, with the stuff that goes on, that's a little bit tricky.
Well, that's correct. One of the things that it's why a lot of times we tell people it's good if you can have a relationship with a place and know the people and be able to ask questions and be comfortable that you're getting the correct product. Now, in these bulk tanks, it's always good if you can ask the attendant, the manager, whoever is in charge, if you could ask for some supporting information to say what's in that tank, because you're looking at this thing and they say, well, that's our standard bulk oil, that's our 5W30 or whatever it happens to be, and that's okay if there's some supporting documentation to show that there is somebody's 5W30 in there that you can trust. And if the response is, well, we don't really have any documentation, they just come up and pump it out of a tank truck, that's when you might want to say, well, that's not enough for me. I need to have some documentation that shows what was put in that tank so that you guys know what you're getting and I know what I'm getting. And other than that, what do you have available here that's in quarts that I could see it, and then you could put those in? Seems like an unnecessary strong response, but there's just too much substandard oil that is sold so cheap in the marketplace that it's so enticing for some of the places, the service centers, to take a chance on using it. And they want to take a chance on using it. It'd be best that they don't take a chance on using it in your car. So
yeah,
you're the one that can try to make some type of determination of what exactly. And you can ask her, one of the good things you can do is ask for oil by name. I say this all the time. If you're not going to use, synthetic made by Amsoil that I recommend, then ask for some oil that's by the name of a reputable company. Tell them that what do they stock there? And a lot of times you'll see it on the sign out in front of the lube place, wherever it is, that maybe they're a Haviline, a Texaco Haviline lube, or maybe they're a Shell lube, or maybe they're a Valvoline quick lube. Whatever they are, tell them, okay, I want your oil in quart bottles so I can see it. Or if you're getting that from Valvoline, which one of their oils is it? And you must have some kind of supporting tech sheet on that oil so that I can know what it is. And that's just being prudent, taking care of your car. You're the only one that's going to suffer the consequences if it's not taken care of.
So true. Let's talk about European auto oils. Dan, I've heard you mention that oil for European cars and trucks can be different from the oil here in the USA. Is this significant?
Well, it's a very good question to get into, Bob, because let's just stop for a minute and you see if I think I can name them all. Maybe you'll know another one, but there's Mercedes, Audi, Volvo, Peugeot, Citroen, Volkswagen, BMW, Jaguar, MG, Triumph. I know I didn't get them all. Can you think of one that I missed?
Aston Martin, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Hyundai, Kia. I mean, there's just Hyundai and Kia, of course, Asian vehicles, but
the Asian ones, just the Europeans, though. Just look at all of those vehicles, and you will see them all over the United States. I would say that you rarely go down the road without seeing some kind of Volkswagen. Very popular car, priced pretty well.
Yes.
So there's a lot of those, and then in some places you'll see just a lot of Mercedes and BMWs if you're in a certain neck of the woods, so to speak. And so these cars are here. They're bought prevalent all over the place. Some have excellent reputations, some not quite as good as others, but people sure buy a lot of them. And the truth is, those cars are manufactured and the lubricants for them are actually specified under a European specification system, not the North American system we use with the American Petroleum Institute. That's not what they use in Europe. They use a funny sort of, I'd just say, it's the ACEA, which like our API stands for American Petroleum Institute. But there, the ACEA, which you say to yourself, well, that's kind of an odd designation. What exactly does that mean, right? And it's interesting because what it means is the Automobile Constructioners European Autos, ACEA. And that's in French is the reason it's kind of funny, the Automobile Constructioners, right? We wouldn't say that. We would just say the manufacturers, but that's in French, and so that's where it comes from. Now, how do they designate oil? Gosh, we over here have one shoe fits all. American Petroleum Institute, API, SN-rated oil. That's the latest classification of oil for a gasoline engine. In Europe, they have a system which divides up a standard category for light-duty vehicles, which is A for gasoline and B for diesel. But they have 5 tiers of quality, and they'll have like A1, B1, A1, B3, A3, B5. It's whole combinations of these things. And so how do you know what to use in your car? Well, you better pay attention to the owner's manual, the European autos. And it's going to specify a particular classification or grade or type of oil. And you got to be careful. I hear our music going, so I'll get further into that when we come back, but it's really important.
Very important information. We'll step aside and then more with Dan Watson on this very important topic. Straight ahead on Auto World. I'll say hello to all of our great radio stations as well as everybody listening on GTNlive.com.
You're listening to Auto World with Bob Long.
Watch out, man, how you drive that Cadillac there.
Thanks for being here. My name is Bob Long.
Telling you.
On with Dan Watson, one of the largest distributors of Amsoil in all of North America. And we've been talking about oil for European cars and trucks. And we had a hard network break, but this is very important information. itself?
Well, Bob, one of the comments I would make on that that's straightforward is that we should have several layers of specifications ourselves here in the United States. The idea that we make one standard of an API SN rated engine oil, and that should be good for a high performance Mustang and a Kia car at the same time, is kind of stretching the idea of specifications, because there's different requirements that you've got to meet in that high performance vehicle, maybe with a turbocharger, these kind of things, versus just a four-banger with throttle body injection. I mean, it's just totally different strains on the lubrication, but we've tried to keep it simple, that one size fits all. And at the Amsoil company that I'm associated with, we would just say that that's ludicrous, because you can't, that's like saying you buy the same tires for your Porsche that you would buy for your VW. They may not be the same requirements, and you may be expecting different performance, so how could you have one tire fit all? Well, you really, one oil fitting all is just not even practical. But in the European oils, as I was saying before, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is they go very specific, and they have, for what they call light duty auto and diesel cars and trucks, and so they've got standards to go from A1, B1, A3, B3, A3, B4, A5, B5. All that sounds just too complex, and I'm not trying to get our listeners out there to try to figure out what all that stuff means. But then they also go into the type of exhaust system that you have, and they have what they call catalyst compatibility standards, C1, C2, C3, and C4. And we haven't even got to heavy-duty diesel oils, where they've got, in those standards, they have E4, E6, E7, and E9. So I'm trying to say all this so that our listeners would understand that if you own a European auto, it takes significant care to make sure you get the correct oil to take care of that vehicle. And quite frankly, if you get the wrong oil, you can have some real problems, because the Volkswagen, they have these wonderful little turbo diesels that they sell in these small, what we used to call the Volkswagen Bug primarily, and they're about a 50 mile per gallon engine, and we laugh about it that Volkswagen changes their oil specs for their vehicles about as fast as changing underwear, because it's like they got a different spec coming out all over the place, and you have to be careful as an oil company to keep upgrading and making sure that you meet their subtle changes in their lubricant. And I'll be honest with you, lots of companies don't. They just get kind of like the first one that comes out, and then they just keep selling that oil as the oil that meets the spec. But I've seen Amsoil, the chief engineer, Alan Amatuzio, wouldn't certify one of our oils that was 1 point off in what they call the high temperature, high shear, until he reformulated it, because he basically says it's got his name on it. His name's Amatuzio, and it's Amsoil, and nothing will be certified that doesn't meet or usually exceed any specification or requirement, so that's why he wouldn't do that. But in the Euro oils, let me go on for a minute here and explain. Very, very careful in the European auto community with all of the pollution control requirements. They have very sophisticated exhaust systems in those cars. And if you use the wrong oil they have what they call I don't even want to get into that. Let's just say that the additives that are in the oil have to be of a certain type that you'll get no carryover into the exhaust system, because if you do and you begin to poison your catalytic converters that are in the exhaust system and you ruin those, then it's going to cost you a large chunk of change. It really is. Those things are expensive, and you have to be careful to match up to that. Now, another situation, you've got there's a lot of high-performance BMWs with turbochargers on them. And the problem is that a lot of people think because it says to use a 5W40 engine oil in that vehicle, that if you just buy a 5W40, that's what's important, and you put in it. Unfortunately, a lot of less expensive 5W40, and some people will run 5W30 in those, will not have enough protection to protect the turbo during its higher performance characteristics. And I've got a shop that is a European specialist shop, and I can't tell you how many turbos they've had to replace in the past 2 years. And it's a jaw-dropping experience to replace the turbo on a BMW. It will just wring your hands when you figure out how much it costs. And so how do you protect those? Well, you buy a high-performance synthetic engine oil that will have the protection, because some of those turbos internally, we've talked about this before, one side of the turbo sits in the exhaust of the vehicle. That's the drive side. It's got its own little turbo fan there that the exhaust going across it causes it to spin. On the other side, through a barrier with a bearing, is the actual fan or the blower portion that picks up the air from outside and then forces that into the intake of the engine. So there's not much distance between the intake side and the exhaust of the vehicle, creating the power to drive the turbo. And that bearing that has to support the shaft holding the two blower components can get very hot. So it's cooled with a fairly high flow of oil that flows over it and goes out. The problem is that if there's anything that causes that to, the timing of that, for the oil to be in there any amount of time, it will just destroy petroleum oil. It cannot handle that temperature. So in many cases, it can destroy it enough to make little hard grains of a product called coke. It's very hard carbon. Once that stuff gets into the oil stream, and it gets between two moving parts, it just cuts, because it'll cut steel. So you can't ignore this stuff. You have to use high-performance, high-quality oil if you have a turbo. And I mentioned this with European oils because there's a lot of European turbos out there.
Tremendous amount.
My pappy said, son, you're going to drive me to drinking if you don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln.
Giving your radio a broadcasted tune-up. This is Auto World and your host, Bob Long.
Have you heard the story of the hot rod race with the Ford Lincolns was set in the face? That story is true.
And our very special guest, Dan Watson, each and every week at this very same time. And whether you're joining us via radio station or on podcast form or archive form, you just go to gcnlive.com, and that will get the right folks on the right page. And Dan, have you gotten any permanent equipment yet for your upcoming new job?
Say that again, Bob. I didn't quite hear you.
No, I was just curious how you were coming along with getting ready for your transition into the new position. Have you gotten some stuff packed away?
Oh, I'm not quite sure which new position you're talking about.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk a little bit more about this very interesting topic about European oils, and lots of people are definitely not up to speed on this, so I'm glad that we're taking the time. Telephone number is 855-660-4261, 855-660-4261. And another question, let's see, we got a call-in question. Well, this one's very important. I get this one asked all the time. Dan, a lot of folks have heard you say Amsoil is the best synthetic in the marketplace. How do you support that rather bold statement?
Well, out there would say, well, he's associated with Amsoil, he is bound to say that. And here's what I would challenge anyone that wants to really debate this statement. If you go on the Internet and you seek out technical information about different oils, their testing and how well they perform and so forth, you're going to find that Amsoil is just an open book. You can find out all the testing information. You can see the tech sheets. You can see all the information. You start looking for other oil companies, and some of their tech stuff is very abbreviated. They might put up one or two performance characteristics, but not many of the others. And so one of the things in that is that a lot of companies are not trying to make the technically the best oil. They're just trying to make a good enough oil to be in the marketplace, be competitive, and make a good profit. And I don't blame them for that. That's business. But Amsoil has always been after the tactic that they would make the best possible product they could, determine what they could sell it for to stay in business, and they believed that they would find plenty of people who wanted that quality who would pay for that product. Now, that's proven to be true because they've just been a rocket growth company for years. And here's a couple of things without delving down into the deep weeds. When you formulate an oil, you'll have the base, which is the liquid oil of petroleum or some type of synthetic base, and then you will put additives into the oil such as antioxidants, anti-wear, anti-foaming, anti-acid type additives. There's a few more. I'm not getting into every one of them. But the point is that the combination of the strength of your base and the robustness of your additive package will usually determine the performance quality of the oil. So it's no secret. There's no hidden magic. There's a matter of what you're willing to spend to make the oil and how much you think you can sell it for. Now, the marketing in this country, unfortunately, in the United States, has always been to sell on price, not on quality. That's just historic. They try to, any way you look in something like oil, they're always trying to tell you this is less than that. This is cheaper, less money. Buy this, less money, right? Mm-hmm. But the real point is the price of something is dependent upon not how much you pay for it, but what you get when you pay for it. That's dependent upon quality, what you get. For example, if you buy an 80,000-mile Michelin radio and it costs you $200 for the tire, and you buy a different tire of a lesser quality brand and you pay $150 for that tire, what was really the best buy? Maybe the $150 50,000-mile radio is not near the quality of the Michelin radio that you're going to pay $200 for. So you actually got a better buy on the Michelin than you would have on the lesser quality radio. So when we talk about Amsoil, they build the best quality oil lubricant that you can get in the general automotive marketplace. And then they offer to sell it to you at a good quality price for what it's worth. Now, add to that Amsoil produces an oil, and they have since 1971, that is a 25,000-mile or one-year oil. That's the Signature Series oils. All of a sudden, the cost effectiveness of the oil becomes quite attractive, because if you're doing, let's say, even 5,000-mile oil changes with another oil, you would have to do 5 of those oil changes to make it to 25,000 miles. Now, most oils that would go for that distance, 5,000 miles, would probably cost you right now about $4 a quart. I guarantee you won't be paying $20 a quart for Amsoil, because that would be the equivalent price if you went 5 times that $4.
Wow.
So it becomes all of a sudden that if it does what it says it does, it's the most economical oil to use on the marketplace. And Mobil proved that by coming out with their annual oil, good for 1 year, 20,000 miles. And quite frankly, it's because Mobil has sat back and watched Amsoil succeed with the 1 year, 25,000 miles, and they know that that's a sellable option that people will buy. So it's a great line of products. Mm-hmm. You won't find a better chemically engineered product to put in your vehicle. And I know it's sort of a quirky thing to say, but with 25 years of being in this business, I have never had customers that found fault with Amsoil. Now, they may have had an engine problem, and it turned out to be a mechanical failure. But as far as being able to show that Amsoil ever let them down, and that's an awful lot of people over 25 years that I've dealt with. So when I get a call and somebody says, hey, Amsoil caused a problem in my engine, my response usually is, well, let's talk about that and see if we can figure out what really happened, because that's inconsistent with thousands of other input points that I have, so I just won't buy it. We'll find out what else went wrong if we research it far enough. So I'm not denigrating anybody else's oil. There's other guys out there that produce oil to the quality that they want to, and if you stay within their parameters, their oil works fine. But they don't want to spend the money to produce an oil of the quality of the Amsoil synthetics, because they just don't yet believe in America that you can sell on quality. They still believe you have to sell on price. The price will win out in the end. And it will with some people, but there's an awful lot of people who want quality, and if they recognize they get the quality they paid for, they're happy with that transaction. They don't feel like they got paid too much. They feel like they paid for an outstanding product, paid what it's worth, and they feel like they got their money's worth.
Well, Dan, we'll take a quick break. Don't go away.
Broadcasting from the middle of Corvette Boulevard and Stingray Avenue, this is Auto World with your host, Bob Long.
Yeah, I wish I was in line to get one of these ZR1 Corvettes. Incredible. Announced a little bit earlier last week. 750 horsepower. They've upped the ante even further, but it's going to be over $100,000, so it will just go to lucky folks or lottery winners. We've got Dan Watson with us from the Lube page, and here's a question about your videos. Dan in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, would like to know what's the best thing to put in the search bar.
To find my videos?
Yeah.
Well, you can go actually to the Lube page, and I've got them there on the Lube page under videos, and that's one place you can start. Now, if you go straight to YouTube, you just put in Dan Watson in the search bar. There's enough that comes up easy to find me through just putting in my name, Dan Watson.
Well, that's good.
I get a lot of people on those videos all the time, and I've been really pressed by a number of guys, and I'm promising that by the first of the year I'll start a new series of videos, because there's a lot of new stuff in some of the Amsoil products, and I haven't, I just have not had the time to get some more videos out, but they keep requesting them, so I guess I'm going to have to get off my duff and get them done.
That's very good. And how is we haven't had a chance to talk off here. How has the response been to the YouTube videos, and are people heading to your website?
Yes, there's quite a bit of activity. I would encourage folks to go there. I've got some pretty good information for you to read. I notice on my analytics, when I look at it, a lot of people come into the website reading the magazine articles, and I'm not surprised on that. There's some good articles there, and they're magazine articles that I had written in the past and that I've posted there so that you can see them. They're about oil and lubrication, and Some are more general and some are specific, but you find automatic transmission fluid and gear lubes and grease and motor oils, and synthetic versus petroleum is a big topic that a lot of people read on the site. So good information at thelubepage.com, and I soon will have some audio there, Bob. I'll be posting where they can listen to this segment of the show that we do.
Great.
And, I was on some other radio shows here locally, and I'm posting some of those shows, so the ones that I think are the better ones. And so there are going to be condensed messages about engine oil, gear lubes, transmission fluids, all that kind of stuff. So if you're looking to learn something, you can certainly learn some things at the Lube page.
Absolutely, folks. Check it out, thelubepage.com. Here's another question we kind of already addressed a little bit earlier today, and that's about the switchover. This gentleman doesn't tell us what kind of vehicle he has. It just says a domestic vehicle with over 100,000 miles on it, and he has run traditional oil, and now he's interested in segueing over to synthetic oil. What does Dan recommend?
Well, when you're over 200,000 miles, I will just say that takes some additional evaluation. And so what he wants to do is to send me, I'm going to bring it on the air, but he really needs to go to the website. There's a way to just ask Dan a question, and he needs to put that information in his vehicle and type and so forth. Here's the reason, folks, that you're listening out there. When you run a standard engine oil, a petroleum engine oil, in a vehicle for 200,000 miles, you will have some things happen regardless of whose oil it is that you run, and it's petroleum. And you're going to have some varnish and some sludge buildup. You're also going to probably have a stuck ring or two. And if you were to then come in with Amsoil's premium oil, the Signature Series oil, this oil is such a high cleaner, an aggressive cleaner, that it's going to clean a lot of sludge, varnish, and start to free up the rings rather fast. And if you had a whole lot of sludge in this engine, that stuff comes down out of the engine into your oil pan. Now, on the bottom of the pickup tube, or for the oil pump, there's a screen to keep big chunks of things from trying to get into the pump. Well, that screen could get clogged up with this sludge and stuff that you're dropping down out of the engine. And we don't want to do that because that could cause pulsating oil pressures in your engine. So what I'm telling you is that there are ways to do this, but those I would like to coach you on specifically and not have you just go out with 200,000 mile plus vehicle and go down to the lube place and tell them that you want them to put in Amsoil Signature Series oil, because I don't want you to have a difficult experience. I want it to be seamless and easy to do, and I can send you information by email to tell you the steps to go through to convert that high mileage vehicle over. Yes, you can convert it over, and you'll be glad you did. But since there's some things that can happen which wouldn't be good, we have to be cautious as we make that transition and do it in a certain manner so that you won't have any problems. Does all that make sense, Bob? It
sure does, Dan. You're a wealth of information. Another question. This is about a new car. It's a Shelby GT 350 from Ford, which has a 5.2 liter. They call it the Coyote engine. And he says he's not sure what's in the crankcase right now, but he knows it's a funny weight oil. It's like a 5W50. He says, should I just, right now it's under warranty, just do what the factory says for the time being?
Well, 5W50 he should stay with. And this gets back to what I was talking about before. That's a very high-performance vehicle. They went up to a 50-weight oil because this crazy one-size-fits-all in the United States, you couldn't guarantee that an API-rated 30-weight engine oil would protect that engine. So they moved up to a 50 to try to guarantee that if you bought an API-rated 5W50, it would protect the vehicle. Let me suggest that what you really want to buy, Amsoil makes a Signature Series 5W50 for those high-performance vehicles, and now you're talking about absolute protection. That 5W50 that we make, it could run it over at Daytona if they wanted to in the race. I mean, it is super high-performance, specialized oil, and it's made for Mustangs, and I think there might be maybe a Viper or something over in the Dodge side.
Sure.
Where they called out for a 5W50, and I would highly recommend that the caller or the emailer, whichever way he was asking the question, go to the lube page and drop me a note and ask me for that 5W50 Amsoil Signature Series oil recommendation. I'll send you the tech sheet on it and its performance characteristics, and I'll tell you, it was made to respond to these high-performance cars. These are almost like going back to the muscle cars and then adding some extra steroids. These are some really powerful vehicles, and they take the best protection that you can get. Anything short of that, you're going to shorten the life of those vehicles.
So true. Here's another one. This one is out of Nevada. It's James, and James has a 2005 Chevrolet Silverado with 260,000 miles on it, and he wants to know which oil would serve me better, is the way he puts it. He usually goes by the engine oil life monitor, which finishes off at 8,000 to 10,000 miles. If he put Amsoil in it, could he stretch those intervals out?
Yes, he could. He very well could. And at 260,000 miles, again, that's one that I need to have him go to the lube page and ask me the question through the lube page so that I can correspond with him by email and give him pretty much a step-by-step procedure to convert this vehicle over to synthetic, do it successfully, and then he can run the Signature Series oils, probably in that particular engine, maybe a 10W30 for 1 year, 25,000 miles, and really cut down on his need to be constantly doing oil changes. Sounds like he's a pretty high mileage guy, 260,000 miles.
Yeah, no, that is high mileage. Well, Dan, thank you so much for all the great information. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and we'll get you back here next week and answer some more questions.
All right, Bob, it's been a good one. Nice talking to you tonight.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Folks, this is Bob Long, host of Auto World Radio, with great news. We have a new sponsor, Dan Watson, who distributes Amsoil throughout the USA and Canada. Dan is one of Amsoil's largest distributors. He's a former U.S. Navy nuclear specialist and a certified lubrication specialist with 25-plus years of experience. You can listen to Dan every Sunday evening live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on GCNlive.com. Get all of your questions answered and ensure you get the best lubrication for your car, truck, boat, or really anything that moves. In 1972, Amsoil pioneered synthetic lubrication, and Amsoil continues to provide the best lubrication money can buy. Get the best advice for the best results. Contact Dan at thelubepage.com. That's thelubepage.com. Or call 800-370-2986. That's 800-370-2986.